This topic is so important that I've created a separate video just for this. This is kind of foundational as you begin to build your news site. These two critical things. Many people apply to get into Google News, and even though they have decent news sites, Google doesn't accept them because of one of two things. The first thing is Google wants legitimate, original, journalistic, professional news content for their news network. This is all about content. As you know, this is not a secret. Google is always talking about quality content, and for its news network, quality is even more important than just for your typical blog. You can write anything you want on your blog, and Google may not send traffic to it, or they may send a lot of traffic. But in the news business, to get into Google, you're going to have very good looking professional content written in a journalistic style that looks like it's written by a journalist, and preferably is written by a journalist, to get in. That's just a very basic concept. Okay, now it doesn't mean you may be thinking, well, I'm not a journalist, I don't know any journalists, and so on. And don't worry about that part yet. We'll talk more about how you can write news articles. You don't have to write very many of them. You don't have to write them yourself. There are a lot of ways to get good looking journalistic content into your site initially so that you can be accepted by Google News. Okay, that's not actually that big of a deal. The second critical concept is this. Google is looking for a news organization. That doesn't mean one guy working in their basement writing under assumed names, who is just getting into the news business for no other reason but to make a few bucks. Now, Google understands that every news organization needs to make money. They're in business to make money, and if they tell you that they have any other purpose, like just to create good news stories for the world or some other purpose, that's just simply not the whole story. They may want to do that, but in general their purpose is to make money, pay their employees, and make a living. So what Google doesn't want is just news sites built by internet marketers for no other reason but to make money, and with no incentive to provide quality value-add content to their readers. They don't want sites that will not write good news that their readers want to read. So it's very important that you understand that Google is looking for these two things. Okay, so because they're looking for these two things, that means that when they review your site for approval, they're going to want to see evidence that the articles are news articles written by someone who understands journalism, and that they're created by a news organization, that it isn't a one-man show. It isn't just simply one person writing a bunch of articles pretending to be a lot of different people. In fact, on the applications, they're going to ask you how many people are in your organization, how many people have contributed or contribute to the ongoing operation of your newspaper. So if you get these two things right, then you will have a much better chance of getting accepted into Google. In fact, the vast majority of people who fail to get into Google make one of these errors. They either don't provide good content from the very beginning, it's too short, it's written with bad grammar, it isn't really news, it's information that you might read in an encyclopedia, one of these content-oriented problems, or it's very clear that there is only like one person involved or two people involved in the creation of the publication, and that it isn't really an organization, it's just kind of a blog that somebody has thrown together and wants to get accepted into Google News. If Google believes either of those things is true, then they simply won't accept you. So that's why we're starting with that basis so that you understand those two very critical concepts.